Hey everyone, this is Josh from before, and I'm about to show you a bunch of cool stuff. We're gonna look at my custom 89 Batmobile repaint. We're gonna look at this custom McFarlane Air Attack Batman, which is the most recent entry in my series of Kenner and Toy Biz inspired repaints. And I'm gonna show you some of the crazy custom stuff I've been cooking up with the Galactic Geek and our friend Wilson. So the Batmobile and Air Attack Batman are pretty simple customs. I kind of squeezed them in on the side while we were cranking out all this other work. If you've been around the channel for a while, you saw version 1.0 of the City Dio that we built. This Dio was actually used to create a fake toy ad that was featured in the comic book I created, and viewers of this channel helped me crowdfund a print run of that book last summer. The book has story pages, but then we made a few fake ads, like an MCU-style live-action movie poster and this retro-inspired toy ad, in the style of promotional toy photography from the 90s. So now I'm working on the second issue of the book, and we're gonna crank up the toy component in a big way. The first one had this 2-page spread. The second issue will have at least a dozen pages of toy content featuring characters from the universe of the comic. So the City Dio is getting some upgrades, and of course this isn't just for the comic. Galactic Geek is a toy YouTuber, and he has an amazing collection and an amazing toy room, and he has a lot of these pieces set up in his space permanently for photography and videos and stop motion content. We've also done some live streams from there. It's always really fun. Make sure you're following him. But anyway, we're chipping away at all these upgrades a little bit at a time. So we have these cardboard skyscrapers that have lived in the background. For the first photo shoot, we had to use some of our primo lights for them to be lit up from within. Now we've installed permanent lights in there with these LED strips, and they're wired. Sometimes we use battery powered lights, but now these will not need batteries to be swapped out. These cardboard buildings, like I said, they're cardboard, and the quote unquote windows are just lined yellow notebook paper, but you can't really tell how haphazardly they were assembled once you put them in the background and the focus is soft, you know? We're also building a 3-sided, 3-story brick building with a roof and a fire escape. We're taking these pieces of foam brick that Galactic Geek carved. We're installing windows that were 3D printed by Wilson, and we're attaching a fire escape, which is actually a decorative shelf found on Amazon. So this is a work in progress, but it's going to be a key piece of the City Dio, and each side of the building will have a different window configurations and graffiti, so it can have some versatility in how it's used and photographed. So you saw those 3D printed windows. Wilson is the 3D printing guru here. He's been printing all kinds of props and set dressing, like benches, fire hydrants, mailboxes. But I think the coolest is these light posts that he has rigged up with actual functioning lights. So now they're a fantastic practical light source and a piece of set dressing. This is how you bring a Dio to life, in my opinion. You get a variety of light sources, densely packed details, and lots of different textures, like fabric curtains in this NECA facade. The contrast of the fabric against the molded plastic makes the world feel more complex. And speaking of texture, I'm a big fan of this specific kind of porous foam sheeting. It's all nooks and crannies, so when you spray it with black paint, the light reflecting off it makes it look kind of like asphalt. So we've got all these projects going on at once, and we're cranking out a bunch of new custom figures and vehicles. We're using 6-inch scale here because it's easier to find more specific custom fodder pieces. Like I said, these are characters from our comic book, and the comic is about a graphic designer superhero, and he lives in a world full of characters based on art and design principles. So the hero is called Drop Shadow, as in the Photoshop effect, Drop Shadow. And get it, it sounds like the Shadow, right? And he battles villains like Comic Sans and Typeface. Makes sense? Like lots of puns, kind of parody. It's similar in tone to something like the Tick or Chew from Image Comics. You can get the digital version of the first issue for free. Follow the link in the video description, check it out, and contact me if you have any interest in submitting fan art that will be printed in the second issue. I am serious. The first book had a gallery section with pinups from different artists, different art styles and mediums. So seriously, I will put your work in the book and you'll get a credit. I'll put your social handles in there, all that. Hit me up. Anyway, I'm not going to get into all these specific characters and who they are right now in this video. There's going to be more of that as issue 2 gets closer to being finished. But I'll tell you about this one character in more detail because we tried a wild method to create this. The character is called the Mask. And if you've used Photoshop, you know that when something is transparent, the way you can tell is that you can see this checkered grid pattern behind everything. It's called a transparency grid. So if something is masked out, you will see this grid, hence the mask. And the way we did this checkered pattern was to dunk the figure into what is called hydro dip film. The figure has a more complex shape than what you would normally hydro dip, so the checker pattern didn't go on totally perfect. It gets a little wonky kind of in the chest and stuff, and he has a literal Achilles heel situation from where I was holding the figure when I dunked it. But the way he's gonna be posed, it's not gonna really appear on camera. We're okay there. But this was a very quick and fun way to get this tight pattern onto the figure, and it's very satisfying to watch, I think. It really makes me want to try this hydro dipping method again. Okay, so thanks for going on that journey with me. I do hope you like seeing that behind the scenes stuff and seeing where a lot of my energy has been going these last few months. You may have noticed my video output hasn't been as prolific lately. Well, that's where a lot of my time has been going. When me and Galactic Geek and Wilson are collaborating, we're able to combine a lot of different skill sets and creative ideas and generate some really impressive stuff and have fun doing it. So anyway, well, finally onto the Batmobile repaint. My approach to this was pretty straightforward. First, tape off the parts that I don't want painted. I had seen a lot of people repainting this thing already, and I had seen them come up with some proven methods, excellent results. I was coming at it from a slightly different angle. I started with a couple coats of semi-gloss black. I didn't do any sanding beforehand. I do have a tendency to want to dive right in, and I don't always do all the customary recommended prep work. But I did give the paint several days to fully dry in between coats. Then I wanted to knock back that sheen a little bit, so I hit it with this Mr. Super Clear matte seal. And truthfully, the result was more matte than I had intended. I did want to try to preserve some of that glossy sheen, but I'm perfectly happy with this. And you know, this is a very easy custom job, so I could go back, tape it up again, hit it with more paint, and it really wouldn't be like a huge effort to do that. Overall, I think this is a very approachable custom for novices. If you want to try your hand at repainting this, it doesn't take much to see some significant results. And you could go even further. You know, you could put a black wash on the metallic parts. You could put some singe marks on the afterburner. I mean, go nuts, right? Now, let's move over to this custom Air Attack Batman inspired by the Kenner figure from the 90s and the latest in my retro-inspired 7-inch customs. You can see I started with Tech Shield Batman, Sky Escape Joker, and my personal favorite, Bob the Goon. And now Air Attack Batman has joined the chat. Another very simple custom, just taped off a bunch of pieces and hit the exposed areas with a flat white primer. The original figure was kind of off-white, but the blister shows like 0% gray, bright white. So I just went with straight white. I wanted to see that pop against the black plastic. After peeling off the tape, I had a lot of cleanup to do. A lot of overspray, a lot of paint seeping underneath the tape. Frankly, I'm not totally done cleaning it up quite yet. There are a lot of spots you can see that I'm gonna have to hit with like a Q-tip and nail polish remover to get the black sections totally clean and crispy. But honestly, I don't really need these to be perfect. Like, you can look real close at any of them and see that they're not factory perfect. And in this scenario, I think the fact that I have a group of them, it takes the pressure off any one of them to be flawless. When you look at them as a group, those little imperfections kind of fade into the background, and it's more about having this impressive lineup. Or at least that's how I justify my sloppiness. But seriously, guys, if you want to get better, you got to put in the practice. So if you're at all nervous about trying your hand at customs, I'm not the most experienced person either, but you got to jump in and start somewhere. It's really the only way to improve. And I have intentions to keep going with these Kenner-inspired customs. I also want to create more henchmen, you know, like some themed villain henchmen, Joker goons, Penguin goons. But as you can see with all the other custom stuff I have going on, I don't have as much time to focus on those specific projects at the moment. But we'll get there eventually. I got a whole box full of fodder pieces for henchmen, kit bashes, repaints. That stuff will be happening in the future. I just need to wrap up some of these other side projects that I've got going on. I'll keep you posted on the progress of those. Let me know if you like seeing this kind of stuff. I do intend to show you much more of this custom process work, behind the scenes stuff. Thanks again for watching. I hope you learned something or got a little inspired for some of your own projects. I will talk to you guys next time. Peace out.